So here are the weekly meeting minutes. Ceph ADM LCW set up in the dashboard. There is a pull request for that open.
Yeah. Are we waiting for Sage to join or not?
I've pinged Sage on IRC. I've pinged Sage on IRC. I can't do anything more. Kizzy, Alfonso.
Okay.
I think you're both more expert when it comes to that pull request of Sage than he is. So I guess it's okay.
Okay, I will share my screen just to wait the current status, the proposal, and I requested the help of Casey for some clarification. So, can you share my screen? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So the current status is that we set credentials so we can connect on a per gateway basis. So you can select the object gateway. Currently, if you go to daemons, I have in this mock setup, multi-site that I have for development, 2 daemons belonging to different realms. Okay, so if you go to users, you can see that for Real 2 we have the developer 2 user, but if you select another daemon, then you have the developer 1. Okay, from CDS, the Quincy CDS, we got the feedback to enhance the selection. Instead of per gateway, do it only per realm. But in that PR that in Ceph ADM, they are setting the RGW credential for the dashboard. I explained how it is done today. So currently we are doing the access key and the secret key in a dictionary like per daemon or per object gateway. Okay, so the proposal from Sage, I think that it was mostly do it per realm. Then I found a Yehuda. I can do a more. Okay. So Yehuda suggested that the credentials would be per zone and not per gateway. Per zone that the daemon is running on, I assume. So I asked him if this does mean that the current drop down should be per zone inside of the realm, because a realm is a hierarchy like, so you have a realm, then the zone group and zones inside the zone groups. Yeah, and I asked him, so maybe the gateway selection should be secondary, but we don't know if we should be per realm. So my question here is that from my past experience, when, for example, selecting or creating buckets and selecting the placement target, I found that if a daemon was running in zone 1 and you were to create a bucket and place it in a placement target that was belonging to a different zone, you could not do it. I got an error. So what I want to know, and I don't know if Casey maybe can help us, is what is, as we have to connect through credentials and a host and a port, what should be the main concept to connect to? A zone, a realm, or a gateway? That is my doubt, because from I know from past experience, I know that the zone is important to select, but I think that the proposal is to only select realm and just pick up a diamond running on a certain realm, and I have doubts about it.
I would lean towards zone as the unit that you send admin requests to.
Okay. Currently, what we are doing here, what we are doing is right now, this is the current status. We are creating the URL to connect to the AdminOps API using the host and the port and the access key and the secret key that we pick up from the credentials. My question is, then the new proposal should be, instead of selecting gateways, just offer the user the zones that the diamonds are running on, and then pick up a zone, select a zone, right? But not between realms. For example, if I have two realms, two zone groups and 4 zones, 2 zones per zone group, then this drop-down menu should be consisting of the 4 zones, not the 2 realms, the 4 zones. That is my understanding, right?
So backing up a step, like I don't think it makes sense to target gateways separately, because if you have 2 gateways running on the same zone, they're just going to see the same data for everything. So I do think it makes sense to have zone as the thing here. But I don't know if it makes sense to mix zones that are in different realms, because different realms have completely different sets of data and users and buckets. So you might want to have like realm selection as just a completely separate level. So like you click on realm 1 and then you see what zones are there and you can operate on it. But if you just kind of put them all together and just pick zones, then it seems like it could lead to confusion, like accidentally creating a bucket on the wrong realm or trying to use something from one realm that only exists on the other.
Okay, so my understanding is should be that provide somehow like 2 levels of selection. And so you pick up the realm, but then you have to select at least one zone or the default zone from that realm. But at least the user should operate on a certain zone, because am I correct when I say that a diamond running on a zone cannot operate outside of the zone it is running on?
Correct.
Okay, so at some point the user must select the zone apart from the realm. So maybe it should be a double, or well, we can find a better way to, well, the UI is, we can take out the UI design here, but because what I want to clarify is the concept. Okay, so what I see here, then, yeah, I don't know if Sage joined or not, in order to clarify that when he says the important part is to select the realm, I assume that with a two drop-down selection, or well, some kind of enhancement, but it should be enough. And that then the implications here are, well, we need this pull request, because right now we don't have this info until this is merged, the real name and real ID from the service map, because without credential we can only retrieve the gateway list and the zones from the service map. So what I will do is to leave here following that conversation a comment regarding this about the zones, and then to see if the Ceph EDM and dashboard can be consistent on set up the credentials. The only thing is that maybe, as we are now setting up the credentials on a per gateway basis, like here, maybe doing on a per zone basis will require from one point release for if we are backporting this to Pacific, from one point release to Pacific to another, this will imply some kind of upgrade or some action item on the user side to update the credentials.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that daemon 1 ID, is that the key for that map, is that used for something specific, or is it just, like, could I just replace that daemon ID with the zone ID? Or does it need to be a valid daemon ID?
No, yeah, what we were talking about, you just joined, we were talking about that. I think that the relevant thing in order for operate correctly with buckets and users is the zone. So from my understanding from the KC feedback is that we should set up credentials based on zones, not on gateways, because you could have the case that you are having more than one daemon running on the same zone. So it should not matter which daemon you connect on, but it should be the credentials that allows you to connect to a daemon running on that zone. So the dropdown should be based to have two levels. You have to select a zone, but maybe you can select a realm and then pick up a zone from inside that realm. That is the recent agreement. So my understanding is that we should replace this per gateway credentials, be replaced with a per zone credentials as Yehuda suggested here.
Okay.
So my only concern is that if we do this consistently and we backport it to Pacific, maybe some upgrade process or action item on the end user would be required, and unless we are replacing the daemon ID, find the zone, and then put the zone name in there. Or just in the release notes to make a note saying, hey, this change, you should be checking your credentials. I don't know what is the standard process here when you have this kind of breaking change from point release to another point release in the same release.
We could set it up so that the function that creates and updates all these credentials just gets run on upgrade. And so this config will just get automatically updated after the upgrade.
So technically the credentials are valid for all zones in the same realm because metadata sync will copy the user everywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
if that helps.
Is it sufficient to just create one credential for the whole realm?
Yes, I mean, creating a credential, metadata sync is going to copy it to every zone anyway, and so you'll be able to log in and use that for any zone in the realm.
Seems like the only sort of corner case where you'd want to like specifically not do that would be if metadata sync wasn't working yet, or like during the bootstrap process. But
well, you're not going to be able to
deal with it. Yeah.
So then my understanding is with one credential per realm, well, a credential of any user in the realm should be enough for all zones. But when I connect to a gateway inside, I mean, maybe the user is selecting a zone, but I have to pick up a daemon that is running on the selected zone.
Yeah.
So we should be careful that use the credentials for the realm, but taking into account that I have to select a zone, because otherwise I can have problems when creating buckets on a zone that is not belonging to the daemon. So then what I understand is the credentials should be per realm, and the daemon selection in the UI per zone. That is the agreement then that we have.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So then this should be per realm, the settings, the credential. Okay. Then my comment says is that the legacy way that you only put an access secret key for a single site is enough. For the multi-site, then we need this dictionary-like but simplified on a per realm basis.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay, so I will try to then contribute on that PR so we can have an atomic feature.
I'll update this pull request today. Yeah, it'll do per realm and go from there.
So about the pull request, the title was confusing me. Is that supposed to be configure dashboard RGW connection? Because it says manager connection.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll fix it.
Okay, so, well, I have this clarification, and then I will, when appropriate, I will try to update this or contribute in order to have a line. The only thing is that upgrade that you mentioned, Sage, about the upgrading the credentials. Who should take care this upgrade tool on the Ceph EDM on the orchestrator side? Or?
Yeah, I can do it on the orchestrator side.
Okay, thank you. So I think I have no more unless there is any other question, or I don't know if there is any question regarding this section of the dashboard, or if not, I will stop sharing my screen. We can move on. Okay.
Thank you, Alfonso. Okay. So, are you happy regarding the topic? Anyone? Any thoughts?
I guess the last thing is the way this pull requests work, it always disables Git verification. Do we care about that? That way for now.
Okay.
Leave it that way for now. Okay.
Okay. Sage. NFS import. So you weren't quite happy about it.
Yeah, I went through. I was going through the comments again, and you had suggested NFS export create, which is better. But I think the way that it needs to work is as a it needs to be idempotent,
Yeah.
which makes me wonder if instead of create, it should be apply. NFS apply.
That would mean we need some kind of a unified update and create.
The way that the current implementation works right now.
Yeah. And it should accept on the things on the CLI, and it should accept a JSON document, or I don't know. We could even pass in. I don't really like the JSON document because it's some kind of artificial adding a new kind of representation of those Ganesha configurations. So what do you think of just accepting a Ganesha config?
I think that's one option, but I feel like the JSON document is a little bit easier for users to construct. And it also means that we aren't necessarily tied to the implementation. Although probably in practice, I think we are. Anyway, we would have a hard time moving away from Ganesha, but
okay. I mean, we have to be idempotent anyway.
Yeah.
There is no way around it.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of the cheap, easy way to do it is if it exists, then just do nothing and don't actually compare. But the way it's written right now, it basically sort of merges update, and the create and update paths are basically the same, except that if you use the update command, if it doesn't exist, it'll error out. But like otherwise, it's basically the same.
Mm-hmm. Vasha said that the update command might restart the Ganesha daemon and the create command won't. And now it's gone. Mike, what do you think? Mike?
Mixed feelings about it.
Yes. Which ones?
Can you restate the two options? Because the last one wasn't entirely clear to me.
So the problem is that
Right.
the current CLI is a bit not perfect, you know?
It's
There is
abbreviated for simplicity. Is that what you mean by not perfect? And that it doesn't express everything, or that it's
it differentiates between create and update where it actually shouldn't. It's so that create is not idempotent,
Mhm.
right?
So for the create command, like the create at SFFS, like the CLI version, that version isn't. So it's okay. So that should definitely be idempotent. If it's not, that's a bug. I mean, if we don't need like an update that errors out if the export doesn't exist, then everything gets simple, right? There's just like one command that takes JSON. And so I would actually prefer that. I just wasn't sure if we wanted like an update command that would fail if you're trying to update something that doesn't exist. But if we don't care about that, then like that makes everything simpler. Then there's just one path that accepts JSON, and it'll just take whatever you gave it and make it so one way or the other.
Mike.
If we called this apply, would that reduce the confusion? Kind of merge them together to single semantic.
That makes sense to me.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's simpler. Okay. So I'll make sure that the create ones are idempotent for the simplified CLI only thing, and then I'll turn the other one into apply with update.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the Rook Manager module again? About current state and things what we should do next week? Joseph and Romega?
I do have an update. So I think I got the apply RGW with the realm and zone flags enabled. The realm flag is pretty useless, from what I can tell. The zone flag works. So yeah, that's kind of done for now. I just have to make a PR and test it some more. For the thing that the Rook client Python thing, Sebastian, I don't know if you saw my messages in IRC, but yeah, I sent some links concerning. I'm not entirely sure the like the preference flag. I think like generate.sh is broken somewhere, because from what I can tell from the Kubernetes documentation, like everything on the Rook side of things should be fine.
Okay.
I can send those messages with the links again if you didn't see them. Yeah, all right. But that's it for me.
Okay.
Well, in my case, just trying to create something in order to provide a fast way to create a Rook cluster, okay, Ceph cluster using the Rook operator and the Rook orchestrator. And a part of that, well, I have taken a look to the pull request that you did about the modifications in the Rook client, in the Rook Python client, Sebastian. And what I want to do is just to generate the classes and to use the classes, okay, in order to be sure that everything is working. In my view, I think that the Rook Python client is useful, okay, because it basically two reasons, okay. One is that it's going to be more easy to work with different Rook CRDs using the Rook Python client. And the other one is that, well, we are going to avoid problems and mistakes using in different ways the CRDs. So I think that it's important that we need to update and to be sure that is working, okay? Maybe it's a little bit more of work in maintenance, but I think that it is worth. And apart of that, nothing for my part.
Okay. Do we have any other topic for today? There is nothing on the Orchestration Weekly other pad. Okay.
Yeah, I have. Sorry. Yeah, I just asked to the dashboard folks, and they mentioned about this gather facts thing. So I haven't been following that very closely, but I think the discussion was versus getting the data from the cache, right, from the key value store, right, or providing a new command for doing that, right?
So the gather facts is already cached and stored in the Ceph ADM Manager module for all hosts. And the idea is to just add a new method to the Orchestrator interface, to the Python Orchestrator interface, that just returns the information that is stored within the Ceph ADM Manager module. I don't know if it really makes sense to already do a CLI command for it, because that would mean that we have to properly clean up the data that's in gather facts. Because as soon as we are exposing it, we are going to have people depending on the concrete structure of it. So it has to make sense. So for now, I really would avoid. I would recommend to avoid creating a new CLI command for it, but just expose it in the Orchestrator interface, and then carrying it from the dashboard as any other command that we provide.
Okay. And from, as you mentioned, from the implementation in the orchestrator side, then we may assume that the information is always going to be cached, right? So we won't have to retrieve that information from the host. It will always be there, right?
It will always be there.
Okay.
What you can't do in any case is fetching the live data from all the different hosts, because that would take too long. Especially if you have servers that are running into timeouts, you would block everything. So you really can't do any network calls from the CLI handler.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah. Okay, that was it. Thanks, Sebastian.
Anything else for today?
No, only to mention that I'm working on a Jenkins job based on KCLI in order to run the dashboard end-to-end based on Ceph ADM as backend, for Orchestrator backend. So let's see if I'm successful.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I want to talk to Ernesto for 5 minutes after this meeting if he's available.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
I think we can close this meeting now. There is nothing else. Last chance.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks. Fine
Okay.
day.
See you next
Bye.
week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.